Hey, everybody. Welcome to Chanel's Reality. I'm Chanel, and this is my reality. I wanted to come on here really quickly and speak to you guys um, about Janice Combs. She is P. Diddy's mom. P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, Chef, Shitty Diddy Combs, whatever. She is the, excuse me, apologize, I'm a little tired today. But she is the mother of Sean P. Diddy, Puff Daddy Combs, who is entangled in a very large, almost, I would say, I would venture to say, I would argue, worldwide um, scandal. That's to say the least. Um, and the case has been brought to the world's attention by the Southern District of New York, and P. Diddy's being homes being raided, and then ultimately his arrest, which was all kicked off by Cassie Ventura's lawsuit back in almost a year ago, last November. So Mrs. Combs, Janice Combs, is Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, Mr. Love, Dr. Love, whatever his name is. She is his mom, and she has something to say today. I guess she said, "Today I got time." So I'm gonna read to you guys what she says in her post. So it says here. Oh, and let me say everything said on Chanel's Reality is in my opinion and for entertainment purposes only, and is all alleged. So Janice Combs says, I come to you today as a mother that is devastated and profoundly saddened by the allegations made against my son, Sean Combs. It is heartbreaking to see my son judged not for the truth, but for a narrative created out of lies. To bear witness, I guess she meant to say, to bear witness to what seems to be like a public lynching of my son before he has had the opportunity to prove his innocence. He is an unbearable, hold on, wait, opportunity to prove his innocence is okay. She says is an a unbearable pain to put into words, although she's wrote 3 paragraphs here. But I'm not a mother, so there's that. She says, like every human being, my son deserves to have his day in court, to finally share his side and to prove his innocence. I am not here to portray my son as perfect because he is not. He has made mistakes in his past, and as we all have. My son has not My son may have not been entirely truthful about certain things, such as denying he has ever gotten violent with his ex-girlfriend when the hotel surveillance showed otherwise. Sometimes the truth and a lie become so closely intertwined that it becomes terrifying to admit one part of the story, especially when that truth is outside the norm or is too complicated to be believed. This is why I believe my son's civil legal team opted to settle the ex-girlfriend's lawsuit instead of contesting it until the end, resulting in a ricochet of effect as the federal government used this decision against my son by interpreting it as an admission of guilt. Child. It is important to recognize that none of us, regardless of status, are immune to fear or mistakes. Oh my God, this is so it's okay. Let me just keep reading. Not being entirely straightforward about one issue does not mean my son is guilty of the repulsive allegations and the grave charges leveled against him. Many individuals who were wrongfully convicted and later exonerated had their freedom taken from them, not because they were guilty of the crimes they were accused of, but because they did not fit the image of what society considers to be a good person. History has shown us how individuals can be wrongfully convicted due to their past actions or mistakes. Okay, I'm pulling up the second one. Watching the world make jokes and laugh at my son's life crumbling before our eyes is something I can never forget. It is truly agonizing to watch the world turn against my son so quickly and easily over lies and misconceptions without ever hearing his side or affording him the opportunity to present his side. These lies thrown at him are motivated by those seeking financial gain and not justice. These individuals saw how quickly my son's legal team settled his ex-girlfriend's lawsuit, so they believe they can receive a quick payday by falsely accusing my son. Falsely accusing my son. False allegations of sexual assault or SA were true victims. Oh my God, I can't with this of sexual violence. From getting the justice they deserve. To make matters worse, the federal government is now using these lies to prosecute my son. This injustice has been unbearable for our family. The worst part of this ordeal is watching my beloved son be stripped of his dignity, not for what he did, but for what people chose to believe about him. I ask let's see, how do I ask his supporters, fans, colleagues, friends, and the public not to judge him before you've had a chance to hear his side. I beg you to think about those who have been wrongfully persecuted, to remember that not everyone had mistaken has made let me go back. I beg of you to remember that not everyone who has made mistakes in their life deserves to have their entire existence judged by a single action or a few mistakes. My son is not a monster they have painted him to be, and he deserves the chance to tell his side. I can only pray that I'm alive to see him speak his truth and be vindicated. Respectfully submitted on behalf of Janice Combs and the Combs family. I'm just gonna go back and I feel like I want to break down this. I'm on live. I want to break this down, what we just read. So Ms. Combs says that multiple times she says that these allegations. Well, okay, let me start when she says to bear witness. It's so much gaslighting going on in her statement that I cannot. And again, everything here is alleged, but it's the level of gaslighting. If you haven't read the lawsuits word for word, line for line, stuff like that, then you probably it'll may be hard for you to get your head around why this is such a gaslit statement that clearly she didn't write. In my opinion, she may have talked to someone who wrote this for her, but there's a ghostwriter happening in the Combs family at the Combs camp, in my opinion. Okay, this is ghostwriting and the highest level of gaslighting maybe that I've ever seen. But anyways, she says to bear witness to what seems to be a public lynching of my son. Those words are very intentional. Public and lynching. We know what lynchings are associated with, especially in our dark history in this country. Okay. So one, she wants whoever wrote this wants the world to, because it's not only the world that's listening to this 24-hour news cycle of what's going on with Diddy's. I'm sorry, it's not just here in the United States, it's the entire world that's paying attention to this story. It's giving news and ratings for days for people, I'm sure. Oh, excuse me, guys. Sorry. But yeah, that's gaslighting. That's because they have not, in my opinion, been super successful with trying to pin or conflate everything that this man is being accused of with Black community, with Black men, and with the hip hop community and rap. They have wanted so desperately for the quote unquote culture to take over and claim state to this Diddy guy and basically say, well, it's a Black crime. No, this has nothing to do with black people. This happens to do only with what seems to me to be a person who has a heathen. A heathen. A heathen is a person that's without God. If I'm saying it to put it blunt and straightforward, who clearly has had a treacherous, savage life at the hands, I'm sorry, where he took out whatever his angers were or whatever it is that he was feeling or wanted to do, sexual desires and so forth, out on people who were not able to either fight him back physically, fight him back financially, fight him back politically, fight him back publicly. He took advantage and he treated those people, in my opinion, if you read the court uh, filings against him, um, not simply the ones that are civil suits that people are suing him, but the Southern District of New York's case that the federal government is bringing against him. These people don't gain money from this, as whoever wrote this permission is wants to try to pretend it's happening. Um, Hold on one second. Just say one more thing. Where did I put that other information? Oh, okay. So that's, to me, first part. First part is that line about seems like, what did she write? To bear witness to what seems to be like a public lynching. That's I want to say something to the black community because I want to involve the black women, the black men, the black whomever, black excellence, quote unquote, and say I want them to say, you know what, this I want to play. I never say race card. I hate it when people say that, but that's, if there ever was a definition of it, that's what she just did. She wanted to bring race in this as if race has any bearing on this. Does it have a bearing on society? Race absolutely has a bearing on everything. If race is involved, meaning the difference of someone's skin color, doesn't mean that people are going to do good or bad, but it is taken into consideration consciously or unconsciously. Why? Because we live in a racist society. It just is what it is. However, her using this as if we, the black people, as if what her son is being accused of has anything to do with black culture, black people, black men, wealthy men. It doesn't. It has to do with what her son's behavior was. And it's gaslighting to say otherwise. Period. And when she says things like, before he's had an opportunity to prove his innocence, is a pain too unbearable to put into words. But clearly, y'all have figured out how to put it into words. It's so unbearable, she can't put this into words, but she wrote what looks like at least 6 paragraphs. How is it so unbearable to put in words, but you even wrote 6 paragraphs? Anyways, don't get me started. It's gaslighting. Then this is another form of gaslighting. Everything about it. She says, like every human being, my son deserves to have his day in court. What are you talking about? You're talking about his right to have a trial, have an attorney appointed for him, purchase an attorney, hire an attorney, whatever it is. Yeah, you do. You're right. He does deserve to have his day in court. Last time I checked, he hired a whole bunch of employees, a whole team of them. So he will have his day in court. What are you talking about? Does not matter what people think. It matters what listen. It does not matter what you believe in the court of law. It matters what you can prove. And the only thing that seemingly the Southern District of New York is saying they can prove is that, at least right now, there's racketeering. There was some sort of human trafficking going on. People being held against their will. People being drugged. People being sexually assaulted, violated sexually, whatever you want to call it. That's what the Southern District of New York has said has happened. And he had From what I understand, a whole team of lawyers. You think he just woke up yesterday and decided, oh, let me go? I'm sorry, not yesterday. Do you think he woke up the day before or the day of Cassie's dropping her lawsuit or submitting her lawsuit and said, oh, let me go ahead and pay her some money? No, absolutely not. First of all, Cassie didn't only name P. Diddy, Sean Combs, P. Diddy, Puff Daddy Combs in her lawsuit. She named, go read it. She named all kind of subsidiaries that were connected to him. That is my belief as to why that lawsuit was speedily paid out. Not because Diddy was like, oh, let me, a corroborating or a cooperating person. Because he could have, if that was the case, he was supposedly a billionaire, right? He could have paid her off 10 years ago, 9 years ago, 8 years ago, whenever it was that she probably or her attorneys were saying, hey, listen, we're about to sue you. And if you don't do X, it's coming. I know for certain, 100% certainty, that whoever Cassie's attorneys were, they let him know prior to that, whatever that day is, that she got paid or that it was settled. But it wasn't, again, I don't think it was settled out of the kindness of his heart. I think it was settled because all of those other people, all of those other entities that are listed on those lawsuits said, we got to clean this up. We can't have it splashing back on Sony. We can't have it splashing back on Viacom. We can't have it splashing back on whatever the entities, Revolt, Ciroc, all of these other things that Diddy is or was attached to. All of the things he was lending his name to, Sean John, to continue to build wealth. Those companies that had a dog in the fight said, no, we're not doing that. So let's pay Cassie. That's what happened. But best believe that didn't just happen out of nowhere. And Diddy didn't just pay Cassie out of the kindness of his heart. He paid Cassie because he didn't have a choice. No different than him suddenly out of the kindness of his heart. He's trying to get us to believe that he suddenly wants to give everybody their publishing. You had these people publishing for 20 years, 10 years, 30 years, and now suddenly you want to give it to them? No, fuck out of here. I can't. Anyway, let's keep reading. Personally, after reading the lawsuits, some of them, I don't believe that this man personally deserves his day in court. I don't, but I'm one person. I don't. If it was up to me, he wouldn't have a day in court. He would have his day in a dark hole for the rest of his life. If I had the proof that he was committing these savage crimes on people, footage of any sort, yeah, he going in a black hole. He don't need to come out. He need to sit in there and think about it for the rest of his life. He can eat once a week, get water twice a week. Period. Just enough to keep him there. I'm not Jesus. I believe in Jesus, but I'm not Jesus. And I work with people who've been through atrocities like what the people are claiming P. Diddy put them through. And therefore, I don't have no empathy. I don't have no empathy for this man whatsoever. I don't. But I'm one person. You believe whatever you want to believe. The only issue I have with that is you wholeheartedly muddy the waters when you start removing people's rights. So, like she said, he has the right to his day in court. I believe in that law being there, but personally, as a human being, no, I don't believe in that. Not when it's this egregious. Just lock him up in a hole. So she's trying to humanize him. And then she says, I'm not trying to portray my son as perfect, because he's not. He's made mistakes in his past. Ma'am, come to the front. Mama, dear mama, come to the front. These are not mistakes. What he did to Cassie is not a mistake. That is an intentional act. He didn't come down the hall and stop her and say, hey, Those are my things. Can you give them back to me or snatch them from her or take them from her or any of those things? He did not. He ran straight up to that lady and punched her. That's what he did. That's not a mistake. Running up to someone and punching them is not a mistake. Being a savage and holding people against their will, it's not a mistake. So this plea to the public to say we all make mistakes, these aren't mistakes. We do all make mistakes, but this is not one of them. That's like saying your husband was wide awake in the other room having sex with another woman. It's not a mistake. You don't slip and fall into somebody else. It's not a mistake. It is an intentional act. Period. It's not something he wasn't aware of. This man is fully aware of what he did. But perhaps he forgot. I don't think that man forgot. Of course he didn't. Why do I say that? If you continue to have the same behavior in these lawsuits suggest and are alleging the same exact way of exacting exactly what you want to have. He had the same protocol. Go hire prostitutes, I don't want to say prostitutes, sex workers, go get some underage people, children or teenagers, whatever, go get them, bring them to these parties, give them these drinks, give them these substances. This is what's being alleged. These aren't mistakes. You have to go and buy these things. Alcohol isn't free. Neither are the other substances that they are alleging have been put in these people's drinks to render them basically either unconscious or barely conscious or unable to make critical decisions for themselves. That is a calculated thing. Drugs and alcohol don't just show up on people's doorsteps. It has to come from somewhere. So these aren't mistakes, Ms. Combs. These are intentional actions. No different than when Jeffrey Epstein was sending Ghislaine, whatever her name is, and whomever else out to go and get young girls, teenagers, to come, quote unquote, give this man a massage and then him to sexually assault him. Those individuals. That is the same exact thing. You've hired someone or you've told someone, hey, go get these people, go get these drugs, go get these weapons, do all of these different things. You don't think these people you think they're all drones? Now you listen, you can't play it both ways. If your son is this super intelligent, accomplished human being, he can't also be dumb to what the hell is happening in his own house, in his own presence, at his own parties. He can't do both. You can't say my son is this good person. He's this good, upstanding, upright human being who's made some mistakes, but continues the mistakes for 30 years. It's not a mistake for 30 years, mama dearest. It's not. At your big age, you should know that. I'm just saying. Let's keep going. Let's see what else she says. She says he has made mistakes in his past, as we all have. Again, trying to humanize him, trying to make him like us. He's not like us. He's like somebody, but he ain't like me. So stop it. And he ain't like my husband, another Black man that's educated and intelligent and ain't out here killing. Let me not use that word. Unaliving people, holding them against their will, so on and so forth. Let's continue. She said, my son may not have been entirely truthful. It ain't no may about it. He wasn't truthful, period. About certain things, such as denying he has ever gotten violent with his ex-girlfriend when the hotel's surveillance showed otherwise. Ma'am, again, this isn't a mistake. That hotel footage isn't a mistake. He did all of those things with the full intention of hurting that young lady, period. If he was there, like I said, if you want to play this gaslighting game, you got to be smarter. You're going to use both sides of your brain here on Chanel's Reality. He can't play both ways. He can't say he wasn't fully honest and whatever else, but suddenly become fully honest once the tape is put into his face after he paid for it. Once the tape is given to him or shown in front of the world, suddenly he knows, he remembers. Knock it off. Stop it. He hasn't been truthful about anything. What are you talking about? Certain things, such as denying he had ever gotten violent with his ex-girlfriend. Last time I checked, you said when he was a kid, the reason they call him Puffy is because he would puff all up and get angry. That's what you said, Janice. You said he was violent towards you, allegedly. It's what I could have sworn I read somewhere. You mean to tell me you never encountered Kim Porter? She never said one word. I don't believe that. Rest that lady's soul in peace. I don't believe that for a second. All of these people that's been with your son, nobody has said a word. Everybody else in Hollywood has this open secret except the mama. Of course you know. Of course you knew. Knock it off. Anyways, what else did she say in here? That's another piece of gaslighting. Then she says, after she talks about he wasn't entirely truthful about, and that's because about him denying that he ever got violent with his ex-girlfriend on that surveillance tape. She said, sometimes the truth and a lie become so closely intertwined that it becomes terrifying to admit one part of the story. Shut up. On Chanel's reality, we use both sides of our brains. Stop it. Ma'am. You cannot play whist with us. You're not smart enough. I cannot. Are you, is she serious? Well, again, like I said, she didn't write this. Somebody else wrote this. So she didn't write this. This was written by her attorney, or his attorney rather. And maybe someone talked to her or the publicist or something like that. But no, she probably approved it. She probably said, yep, this works. But she didn't write this. You think people can't tell the difference between the truth and a lie? You might think that way because your son has convinced himself that he can't tell the truth. He's convinced himself he can't tell the difference between the truth and a lie. He has to have convinced himself of that. He wrote a whole enough is enough. People dragging my name. I'm not going to sit by and stay and wait for people to ruin my reputation and destroy my legacy and this, that, and the third. Meanwhile, he's really running rampant around Hollywood and everywhere else, destroying other people's legacies and their opportunities. And really, in my opinion, from these allegations and the lawsuits I've read, people's souls. You destroying people's souls. Look at Justin Bieber. That whole man's soul seems destroyed to me. Just saying. Everybody, listen, survival of the fittest. Usher made it. It doesn't appear that Justin has. Just saying, just my opinion. Anyway, don't get me started. What you need to do, Miss Combs, go apologize to Usher. To what seems out as if your son did something to that young man when he was a child. Go apologize to him. Go apologize to the victims. That's what the hell you need to do. What you don't need to do is get on this good here internet, what they call it, Beyonce's internet or Patti LaBelle's, whoever internet it is today. You don't need to be on this internet releasing any statement. Just shut the hell up. What did the lawyers all tell us? We had a right to remain silent. Please use your right. Since you notified us in this letter that he has your Sean, he has the right to, his day in court. He does. He has a right to due process. He also has the right to remain silent, as do you. So just shut the hell up. That's what you can do. Just shut up. Now, let me just say this. I do believe this wholeheartedly. I'm not a parent, but I believe this wholeheartedly. I know people that I believe would lay down their life for their child if they could, if they had to. If they had to be them or their children, they would lay down their life for their children. So from that standpoint, I get why this lady is begging and pleading and doing whatever she's doing to try to save her son. I get that. But this man, well, let me say it like this. I get that because I think that there are a few people where people draw a line in the sand and they're not going to cross it. They're just not. And I think being a parent and having your children be in jeopardy in some way is one of those lines. That's what I think. I think that's one of those lines. People just, with their family, their husband, their wife, their children, there's lines in the sand that sometimes people are just not willing to cross. And I get that. And there's nothing that she should have to do. Nobody should compel this lady to do it because that's her child. Even though he's grown, and even though, in my opinion, he's a whole ass savage, nobody should compel her to speak. And also is why I need her to shut the hell up, because you make it you really, this type of statement basically is telling all the victims that they lying and they setting her up. I mean, setting him up, and that the government is setting him up, and they're using these, this one case to take all of his freedoms and all of his rights. It's like, knock it all the way off. Again, use both sides of your brain, ma'am. The Southern District of New York and the federal government is not going to spend and waste their time without any proof. No proof? Of course they have proof. You think they're going to send all those people in that man's house like that? Of course they have proof. They're not in the business of embarrassing themselves. They're in the business of winning. And what it looks like to me, looks like they've won so far, and at least in the court of public opinion. And in my opinion, that man ain't never going to see the light of day out of jail. At first, I thought he's probably not going to go to jail because he's protected and he has a whole lot of money, a whole lot of power, a whole lot of influence, so on and so forth. I didn't think he was initially going to go to jail for those reasons. But once they laid out the indictment and the charges, once he got charged with, I think it's racketeering, at that point, if you get found guilty of organized crime, I think it's a mandatory life sentence, if I'm not mistaken. So once I read that, I'm like, it's a wrap. If he gets bail from this new judge that he has, I'm gonna feel away. I'm gonna feel like something is afoot. Something is afoot. If you got two denials from one judge, and then suddenly you get a new judge, and now they've seen the light, and now they can give you bail. That truly, in my opinion, would be a miscarriage of justice, because if any of this is to be believed, and if any of it is true, then that means these witnesses that have come forth, the people that have sued him so far or started a lawsuit, I would be in fear of my life if I was them, just based on what I've read about this man on the lawsuits. So anyway, let's keep going. She said it's important to recognize that none of us, regardless of status, are immune to fear or mistakes. What are you talking about? We already know that. But this, again, this all lives matter moment is not the moment, ma'am. This isn't about us. This is not about all men. This is not about all Black men. This is not about powerful Black men, rich, wealthy Black men, or the Black community. It has nothing to do with us. It has to do with your son's repulsive, savage decisions, period. That is what it has to do with. Nothing else. You need to send this letter to your son. Ask him about what he was doing and why he was doing it. And why did he make this bed so hard? And now he got to lie in it. And now you got to get up out your bed and try to fight off all of the people that have something to say. You can't come out your house now, because everybody that knows who Janice Combs is with her blonde wig is going to be asking her, what the hell did you raise? And she's not wanting to answer that, because I'm sure she's confused too. If I'm being honest, I don't know this lady. I don't know her son. I don't know none of these people, right? But from what I've read in these lawsuits, her son is a savage. He's a heathen. If all of it is true, if any of it is true, he is a heathen and he's a savage. Pure, point blank, end of story, is my opinion. And I try my best to never say because someone's a parent, they are responsible for what their grown children's decisions are. I'm not responsible for what an adult does. I'm responsible, if I'm their parent, to teach them morals, to teach them empathy, to teach them compassion, to teach them to be assertive, to teach them to take up for people, to not let other people bully them, to get an education, to be, a contributing part of our human experience in society. That is my job if I'm a parent. That is what my job would be, to protect them, things like that. It is not my job to be responsible for what a 50 something plus year old man is doing. That is on him. He's responsible for that. People make all kinds of decisions. If it was the parents' responsibility and they are culpable for it, then how do we explain all the people in prison? Everybody in there, do we think all of those people have terrible parents and taught them that? No, of course not. But adults make whatever decisions they want to make when they become adults. That being said, there are some cases, obviously, there's always exceptions to rules, where people do all kinds of effed up stuff to their children and expose them to all kinds of effed up situations, or put them in effed up situations, i.e., people who sell their kids for some drugs or whatever. You're putting your child in a compromising situation. Well, however that child ends up, I can't say it wasn't influenced by the parents in those type of situations. But children are resilient, and a lot of times they can overcome adversities, and especially some of the most inhumane circumstances. You would be surprised. But again, like I said, her trying to drag us into this as if she wants, this is what she's attempting to do by gaslighting us with this statement. She's attempting to reach to our hearts, our Black hearts over here in Black America and hip hop and rap America and whatever else, and say, look at what they're doing to another Black man. Nobody's doing this to another Black man. Your Black man has done this to himself. He has made these decisions. We have not. Sean P. Diddy Puffy Combs made whatever decisions he made. The public did not. Now, I'm not talking about the people who assisted him. I'm not talking about those people, because those people are just as savage as him, in my opinion, unless they were also threatened. And again, like I said, if someone threatens my life or the life of my children, my offspring, my husband, my parents, you're not going to be able to compel me to come forth and tell you something on anybody. That's what I'm not going to be able to do. I'm just not wired that way. Some people can. I'm not. You're not going to get me to say I'm going to speak up about something that's going on, and as a result of me speaking up, my child is no longer here, or my husband is no longer here, or now I've put my parents in an early grave. I'm not going to do that for anyone. So I'm going to keep my mouth shut. But if that is not the case, for all of those people that were just, lining their pockets with money to look the other way and covering things up, yeah, those people are savages just like him. And I think all of them deserve to go to that same black hole that he deserves to go to. So with this, it is important to recognize that none of us, regardless of status, make mistakes. These things aren't mistakes. Again, mommy dearest. She said, this is another gaslighting. Not being entirely straightforward about one issue does not mean someone is guilty of the repulsive allegations and grave charges leveled against him. Duh. We 100% already know that. But I can promise you, the federal government 100% has evidence that this man has done some of these things that he's been accused of doing. She says many individuals who were wrongfully convicted and later exonerated had their freedom taken from them, not because they were guilty of the crimes they were accused of, but because they didn't fit the image of what society considers a good person. Stop it. No. The reason these people were convicted, the ones that were wrongly accused, they were wrongly accused. Maybe they didn't have the right evidence, the right money, the right attorney. We're not going to conflate these issues, Mrs. Combs. Stop conflating your son with the Central Park Five. Those people were children, and they were all railroaded. This man, your son, is 50 plus years old. He's half a century old. He's over half a century old. Stop taking up for him. What are you talking about? This don't have nothing to do with people being wrongfully accused of something. He said he was being wrongfully accused of these egregious behaviors in the lawsuit with Cassie. And then we suddenly see a video where it's proof. of what he said was a lie. I don't know. Are you sure that you understand the difference between a truth and a lie? Because I'm not sure. When children come in to um what do you call it? There's a term for this type of center, but we'll just call it the children's center, right? For purposes of this conversation. After they've been through some sort of traumatic such situation or circumstances where they may have witnessed their mom, their dad, their whomever person that was caring for them, some sort of egregious act take place, like their mom being unalived, right? Oh, I heard a noise. I heard this. I saw my mommy, da 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 da, right? The way it's called forensic interviewing. So the way you ask those children those questions is you don't lead them into the question. You don't say, "Daddy was in Daddy was there hurting your mommy, wasn't he?" That would be a leading question. You're boxing them into something. What they do is they need to determine if that child's intellect is there. Does that child have the ability to tell the difference between a truth and a lie? So if you have an example of what they may ask is, do you know the difference between the truth and a lie? And the child, but depending on their age, will say yes or no, right? Most children are going to say yes, that they do. And so then if you have on a pink shirt and you say, so if I tell you my shirt is white, is that a truth or a lie? And they say that's true. We know that they either A, don't understand it, or B, whatever information they're going to give us, we can't rely on it as them being able to really make that determination, right? So you're not going to ask a 9-month-old if they understand the difference between the color white and the color blue, because they most likely haven't developed to that point yet. Just saying. And that's what I'm getting at. This idea that she thinks that we, the public, can't determine the difference between a truth and a lie. When this man sat there and said, her son sat there and said, these are lies. People are trying to take down my legacy and destroy my reputation and blah, blah, blah. I didn't do any of these things until we see it physically on a tape. Now he's forced to do what I consider a fake apology. It wasn't real. Nothing real about it. It wasn't sincere. Nothing sincere about it. But let's move on. Let's see. She says, watching the world make jokes and laugh at my son's life crumbling before our eyes is something I can never forget. I'm sure if you're his mom and you were a decent mom, this is how you would feel. I would feel that way. I would have a hard time feeling that way though. After I watched I don't know why I keep saying husband. After I watched my son brutally beat his girlfriend or ex-girlfriend on tape for no reason that we know of. His lawyers say he did that because she stole his items. But I don't know anybody that if they're in bed with someone or hanging out with someone and they're their girlfriend and they've been the girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever the relationship is, the sexual one, if it's sexual in nature, if someone leaves with some of your items, let's say hypothetically, that your response is to beat the brakes off of them in the hallway because they left with some of your items. No, that's not the appropriate response or the first response reasonable people have to someone leaving with quote unquote their things. Someone, not some random person, but someone that you've had a relationship with or forced into a relationship with you, because that's how I feel about it. I feel like that lady was being held hostage. But let's just say she was in a relationship with him for all this time. That isn't the first response you have to a person that clearly is at a hotel with you. You say they stole your things or they walked out of the room with your things. Your first response would be, hey, that's my stuff. Give it back to me. There should be a point from point 1 to 10. There's steps in between that, right? You ask for your things back. You stop them. Did you mean to take that? Whatever it is. I don't know these people's relationship. I wasn't there. But there's a point between 1 and 10. There's some steps there. Hey, you got my stuff. Did you have this? I don't know if you meant to do whatever. If she then still insists on taking your stuff, you're a billionaire, right? People shouldn't have the right to take your things, regardless if you're a billionaire or not. I agree with that. But you got all this security. No. You can't ask the security to go get it. You need to beat the brakes off of her to get it. This is why these people that sit on the internet and troll and say, no, it was Cassie. She stayed in this, that, and the third. How do you reconcile this idiotic thinking? How? You're making excuses for this person beating the brakes off this lady by saying, oh, well, she was taking his stuff. You the man. You the $1 billion man. You don't have a security to say, hey, she took my stuff. Go get it. You need to go manhandle her? Of course you don't. Of course you don't. But again, this is his mom's. I don't even know the words to say. The terrible attempt at gaslighting people who don't. Maybe she's trying to gaslight intelligent people, but it's not working because I'm intelligent and this shit ain't working for me. So I'm just saying. So she's like, now she wants to go into this is embarrassing. It's hurtful that, watching the world make jokes about my son. How do you think the victims feel, ma'am? They have to watch it too. At the end of the day, they're the ones. If everything that these victims are saying in these lawsuits or otherwise is true, and I believe that it is because we believe victims here on Chanel's Reality. You have to show me that it ain't true. That's how I rock because I know way too many that it is true for them. So till they show me something different, I'm not gonna believe anything different. But the victims have to watch these people make these same jokes about baby oil. How do you think they feel? How do you think they're dealing with that trauma or coping with that trauma? And they don't have a team of attorneys and everybody else to help them through it and a pile of money to help them get away. Maybe Cassie does at this point, but she deserved way more than whatever she got, as far as I'm concerned. So she said, it's truly amazing to watch the world turn against my son so quickly and easily over lies and misconceptions without ever hearing his side or affording him the opportunity to present his side. He did have an opportunity to present his side. You know when he had an opportunity to present his side? Before Cassie dropped the lawsuit. Before the public ever knew that Cassie was going to sue him. He had a chance to make it right. He refused. He didn't think she would do it, is my opinion. He thought, nope. But again, like I said at the beginning of this video, I don't think it was his choice to come out and say something. I mean, pay Cassie. I think the people that are powerful in more powerful positions than P. Diddy was at the time, at least, they said all the people that's connected to him is really what I'm getting at, the entities that are connected to him. All of those people said, we need to not, because we're involved in this too. Cassie has put us in these lawsuits. She's named us. She didn't only name P. Diddy. She named everybody that was associated with P. Diddy and all of the record labels that were associated with him and everybody else, every company that touched him. So those people, in my opinion, are the ones that said, give this lady this money because we don't want to hear about it again. We don't want the public to know about it, or we want to shut it down. That's my opinion of what happened with him. And his attorneys probably told him, shut the hell up. Don't say anything. Because we're going to see after we pay, we listen to the 24-hour news cycle. Once, Kim Kardashian drops another ass shot, we'll be over it and then we'll be good. We don't have to even respond to it. That's what they thought would happen. Why? Because that's apparently what's been happening for 30 years plus. It's been happening for 3 decades. Why would you think otherwise? Of course he didn't have any reason to think otherwise. If somebody's been aiding and abetting you in your criminal activity for 30 years, why would you think otherwise? Why would his attorneys think otherwise? But his attorneys saw that video and were like, yes. You would think they would be unhappy, but no. They saw that video and they were like, ching, ching. Because now he can't fire us. He needs us in our damage control. He needs us to get him out. He needs us to get him bail. He needs us to get him out of the situation. That's what this is. This lady and her apology, his mom, not apology, I'm sorry. And her plea to the hearts and souls of the black community and everybody else about her son, that's another tactic that his team of attorneys are using. If you notice, it's not just her. Last week it was the kids. This week it's the kids too, about how terrible their life is at this point and what they're they're thinking about and going through. And I have compassion for some of them, not the ones that apparently allegedly are involved in some of this deviant behavior as well. Now, I will give them their due diligence to get their, their due process, and I will, because they are still relatively young, but they're also adults. Not all of them, but the ones I'm speaking of are all adults, grown ass men. So we'll see. I'll at least give them that much. But the girls seem to all be under the age of 18, is my understanding. So I do have compassion for them. And at the end of the day, the ones that lost Kim Porter, their mom, and now are about to lose their father, and at this stage probably appears that they're losing their father, I have compassion for that. I do. But again, that is a separate conversation from this one, this gaslighting that she's doing. I can't with her. What else did she say? Let's keep going. She says these lies thrown at him are motivated by those seeking financial gain and not justice. Girl, don't do it. Again, gaslighting. This has nothing to do with someone seeking financial gain. Let me tell you why. Because we have something called statutes of limitation with regard to sex crimes, at least in this country, right? So that basically means the victim has a limited amount of time to come forward and say, this person did X to me. And then they have to actually prove it, because it's one thing to say, it's a whole nother thing to prove it. So then you have to say, do you have this on film? What proof do you have? If you don't have it on film, and most people who are being AR'd or being sexually assaulted don't have it on film. So guess what? The person that's the perpetrator can say, that was consensual. We had consensual sex. So I don't know what she tripping about or he tripping about. That was consensual. So again, unless you saying in the video that is being showed, even if you had one, I'm not consenting to this, they're gonna say, well, how do you dispute that? Because even if he even if there was some proof of like rough sex or whatever you want to call it, again, we like rough sex. His word against hers, or his word against his, depending on the victims, right? So it's very, 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 very difficult to prove it. So even if they wanted to go on and say, oh, I'm gonna say he did this and I can prove it, you can't. Almost it's very difficult to prove it. It's almost impossible unless you have some sort of physical proof. So what happens is their attorneys, these people that want to bring some sort of, if they're even able to come forward after the shame and the whatever else that will happen to these people being blaming them and all this kind of stuff, if they still have the fight in them and the might in them to say, okay, let's move forward with this. You're taking a chance and you're rolling the dice with a society that has a toxic conditioning for women and other men, men that she somehow deserved that, or she shouldn't have waited, or she shouldn't have been wearing that skirt, or she put herself in that position. Whatever it is, the lies that people tell about victims. I don't give a shit if I'm doing fucking cartwheels in the middle of the street in broad daylight. You do not have the right to sexually assault me. Period. End of story. I don't care what time I came to your room. I can't consent if I'm unconscious. I can't consent if I'm out of it, drunk, not out of my mind. I can't. But these are the lies. So your lawyer says to you, hey, victim A, this man is powerful, or this man is whoever he is. It doesn't even have to be Diddy. Let's be clear. What is going on with, I'm not even gonna go down that road, but if I could just say this to people, most of the time, people who are sexually assaulted never see justice, because the person goes to jail if they can somehow get them to go to jail, and they usually are not going to stay there. And people who are sexual deviants that do these types of things, once they get out, guess what they're going to do? They're going to go reoffend. It's just the truth. Not every last one of them, but many of them do. Look it up, read about it. So then your attorney says you can roll your dice with the jury, and the jury might not, the jury of your peers might not. There's a good chance they're not going to believe you, or there's not enough proof to prove your case. And all the defense has to do is poke some holes in the prosecution's case and say she was, because that's what they're going to do. She was a hoe anyway, and she just is trying to get this man's money. He's wealthy. She's trying to destroy his name and blah, 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 right? That's what's going to happen. That's what the defense attorney is supposed to do, but that's what's going to happen. So then when your attorney says you can go down this road, but they're not going to go to jail. They're probably not going to get convicted of this. It's highly likely that they won't. And they're doing it based on statistics. It's just a fact, right? So then it's like they give up and then they go to civil court because they know they won't win in criminal court. But people conflate that and they say, oh, well, like this lady, his mom is doing in this lawyer written document statement. That's exactly what she's doing. She's trying to make it as if the only reason these people are saying anything is because they want money. No, a lot of people say something and they know they can't get anything but money. They know that I can try to have a trial, I can try to go to court, but there is a good chance that even if these people believe me, they still won't be able to convict him. And if they do convict him for whatever it is, then he ain't gonna stay locked up. He's not. So what happens when he gets out? Just saying. So if I know I'm not gonna win in criminal court, or my attorney advises me that I'm probably not going to win in criminal court, my only way to stick it to someone who has savagely assaulted me in a sexual manner is to get their money if they have some. That is the only resolution I have or restitution I have. So if the only thing I can do, I'm not going to get them to convict you in the court of law, I'm going to come for your pockets. Why wouldn't I? Duh. That's what I would do. Of course, I'm going to come for your pockets if you're not going to get criminally charged or you're not going to get convicted. And time and time and time again, people like Weinstein, Epstein, and at this point, Bill Cosby and R. Kelly and the list goes, Donald Trump, the list goes on and on, of people who finally justice came and got their ass. Finally. But all of the people before, people didn't believe them. They lied. You're just trying to take down this, that, and the third. How did Jeffrey Epstein get away for decades just like Diddy? How did Weinstein? How did Bill Cosby? How did R. Kelly got away with this for years and never until recently? I would say probably in the last 6 or 7 years have there's been some sort of criminal investigation into these people's claims about these people. They almost dead. These people are almost in the grave. The Weinsteins and the Bill Cosbys of the world, they almost in the grave. And they lived their whole entire life not having an answer for any of this foul ish that they've done. So I believe if you can go for their pockets, go directly there. Okay. Go right to go, pass go, collect your $20 million. Period. Yeah, I believe that. Why should you get to this is the problem that I have. It's like now people are saying it's another form of gaslighting. Oh, his living conditions are so horrid. That's the way all jails should be. If we had more jails like that, guess what people would make sure not to do? Take their ass to jail. And what are the ways to keep yourself out of jail? Stop fucking committing crimes. Period. That's how you keep yourself out of jail. You're going to make sure that you ain't in a situation that even looks like it ain't right. That even appears that it could possibly go down to a situation where it looks like you're going to have to end up at that prison that Diddy's in. All of them should be that way. It should be a whole ass deterrent from crime. Then we can walk around and we can leave our doors open. I don't have to lock my doors. I don't have to cover all my packages and hide things at Christmas. I don't have to do none of that. I can sleep easy. But our criminal system allows people like Suge Knight to have a whole ass podcast all the way from prison. This man got a whole record label and business called Death Row. Was that not a sign? I'm just saying. He's in prison for unaliving someone, but he has a whole podcast. I ain't saying that the man shouldn't have a podcast, but I am saying what real reason do people like Diddy, Suge Knight, and whomever else that are in prison or in jail for doing these egregious things or indicted for doing these egregious things, what incentive do they have to not? If I can do these egregious things and then have a podcast in prison, why would listen? I'm gonna do it. There's no real deterrent, in my opinion. Hey, Shabby. Shabby says, "Amen." Let me finish this real quick because I've already been on here an hour. So then she says, the individuals saw how quickly my son's civil legal team settled his ex-girlfriend's lawsuit, so they believe they can receive a quick payday and by falsely accusing my son. It's like I said, it's gaslighting, because the toxic conditioning has told women in this country that if you are violated in some way, you need to keep that to yourself. And if you don't, what we're going to do is we're going to shame you into remission. We're going to shame you into recanting. We're going to mercilessly attack you online and say you're nothing but a liar and a hoe anyways. Or now you're a drug addict and you're this, that, and the third. But I have nothing dealing with mental health in your history. Just saying. Because now, yep, we can't believe her. She's a psycho. They will use whatever it is. And like I said, they have women on board to say, yep. This is the sad part. And like I said, this is anecdotal, but this is just, I'm one person. But I'm one person looking at the internet and the social media, and my one person can see how viciously millions of people get online to attack another person, that another woman, another victim, because 1 in 4 women will be victims of sexual assault in this country in their lifetime. So count the people in your family, count the people, the number of women at your job. Okay. Count the people, the number of women at the club you went to last night. Okay. Count the number of women you pass in Walmart. One of y'all out of 4. How many people walking around Macy's? Count them. Okay. 1 in 4. And I know that number is higher because that's based on the number of people that actually report the sexual assault, not the number of people that actually assaulted. And if you want it to stop, then you need to talk to your daddies, your uncles, your cousins, your besties, your friends, your brothers, all of these people about why, statistically, men continuously put themselves in these type of situations and then want to trick women into believing that they shouldn't even say anything. And then you get other women to pile on and say she's just in it for a money grab, as if women are so weak and stupid and we can't do anything but wait for a man to get wealthy so that way we can have his money. I don't know about y'all, but I got a whole ass man at home for 20 something years, but I still got 3 college degrees. You know why? Because women are not weak and we're certainly not stupid. And be clear, we can take care of ourselves. And for people, especially women, to jump on board and act as if women can't do anything, but that's our limitation in life, that all I can do is hope for a man to take care of me. We are not living in 1972. We're not living in 1682. Those things are far in our past. And if we want to keep it a buck, men are the people that said women didn't have any rights to vote, right to buy property, right to have a credit card, right to anything. Yet they sit there and say women are some sort of dependent. How does that make sense? You're the one that said I can't buy a property. You're the one that said I can't get a house alone in my own name without a man. These are the things that used to happen, right? This is what I'm talking about when I say toxic conditioning. So now we have these women working against their own best interests by jumping online and saying, yep, these people, they just after a money grab. That's exactly why your daughter, your niece, and whomever else will never tell you what your brother did to her, or what her uncle did to her, or your ex-boyfriend did to her or him, because it happens to boys too. That's why, because you running around the earth on the internet and saying out your mouth, she lying anyway. She just a hoe anyway. What was she doing? She just clout chasing. Count the women in your office. Would you say that to them? If they came to your office and say, this guy, he essayed me. You're gonna say they was clout chasing? Or is it only rich people that clout chase? How do you explain if they're clout chasing and they're after money? How do you explain all the women that are with men that have nothing and no one, no money, and they're still being sexually assaulted, and still nobody believes them, or people want to shame them or whatever? What's their motivation? If every woman's motivation that has or knows some wealthy man, every motivation to talk about this man's egregious behavior is simply about money, How do you explain all of the women that have no money that still receive egregious behavior? If men aren't doing anything and these things aren't happening and these women are all just lying, why do we need a whole ass law? Why do we need legislation that says, that's named the Violence Against Women Act? Why do you need that? We don't have a Violence Against Men Act. Why do you think that is? Just like I said before, we don't have only men run daycares. Daycares are extremely lucrative. Why are there no men only daycares where there's only men working there? You could feel free to tap into that money. It's a whole ass, people have babies every day. It's a whole ass industry. Why we don't have no men only daycares? Because women know that nobody on planet Earth is dropping off their baby or their child of any sort at a daycare that's run by only men. And guess what men know? It's not a good big business practice to start a daycare run by all men. Why do men know that? Why do all women collectively, unconsciously, I don't have to know you, your race, your color, your size, your I don't have to know anything about you to know that you are not dropping off your child to a daycare run by only men. You're not. But you will with women. Why is that? Food for thought, right? It's not that deep. It's really not that deep. It's because we know what happens to women. We know what happens to girls. But yet we sit online and we savagely accuse them of lying about what a man has done to them. You cool with Puff Daddy moving next door, R. Kelly moving next door, all of these people that have all this money in the clout that you swear everybody is chasing, if they're female. They're chasing all the money in the clout. Okay, let him move in your neighborhood. Give him the same charges, but just take away the fame and the money. You cool with him being your next door neighbor? You're not. And I know better. And so do you. But people don't want to do that because they're so attached to the idea of celebrity. They're so attached to men being in power. I don't know how to resolve it. I don't. I just know it is an infection in our society and it is rampant and it has been there for as long as I've been alive, and I've been here at least 44 years. It is rampant. I'm not just some random person that doesn't know anything about what I'm talking about. I've been working in sex crimes my whole entire adult life. So I know what I'm talking about. I'm not saying I know everything, but I know bullshit when I hear it. And what this lady has written or her lawyer wrote, because I wholeheartedly don't believe she wrote this. I know she didn't. About trying to gaslight us into this is something that women are trying to do or people are laughing at her husband. This is exactly how people should be responded. People should be disgusted and outraged. What are you talking about, lady? Let's take it and flip it. Your husband's the victim. Sean Puffy Combs is the victim. Are you disgusted by what people are saying about the person that's being accused and indicted? That your son told you about with these disgusting things that happened to him? Are you outraged? Do you want the whole world to stand up and listen and say no more? Of course you do. Of course you want the memes to go online and talk about him and make fun of him and his behavior. If that person did that to your son or your daughter, is this the response you want to have? Of course you do. You want people to rally around your son or your daughter if this has happened to them, not the other way around. You, if we want to keep it a whole book, want them to respond in the way that people are responding to P. Diddy, in the same way, that way, if you were the victim. It just is what it is. It's not a lie. Find it. Find a lie. Anyway, she then closes with, I ask his supporters, fans, colleagues, friends, and the public not to judge him before you've had a chance to hear his side. I beg you to think about beg you to think about those who have wrongly been persecuted is the word she used, to remember that not everyone has made mistakes that deserves to have their entire existence judged by one single action Lady, if you think that people are judging your son on one single action, I have a whole ass, listen, lake. Okay. I have all the Great Lakes of America sitting inside of the Sahara Desert to sell you. Stop it. This is what I'm saying when I say it's just gaslighting. She says, my son is not the monster they have painted him to be, and he deserves a chance to tell his side. I can only pray that I'm alive to see him speak his truth and be vindicated. Again, gaslighting. And I don't want any harm to come to this lady, because unless she was involved in the fuckery, but I don't want any harm to come to this lady or anyone really. But that's gaslighting. Talking about, I only hope I'm alive to see. Stop. Stop, Janice. Stop it, sis. That's gaslighting to say you hope you'll be alive to see your husband be able to defend. I mean, not your husband. Why do I keep saying husband? To see your son alive. You hope that you're still alive to see your son, have his day in court and be able to, testify on his own behalf and prove his innocence. That's gaslighting. We all hope to be alive. Think about all the people who felt like, I don't even want to be alive anymore after what I have experienced with this man, your son. Have you thought about them? Or are you only solely thinking about yourself? Because those people who've written these lawsuits and claim that your son has done these atrocities to them, they have a life sentence too. It's not spent inside of a physical building, but they have a life sentence of trauma and a life sentence of triggers. Doesn't mean they're going to walk around all day as a victim, but people do get triggered. And that's why I said, yeah, it's not funny for the people to make the baby oil jokes and how, you feel like Janice feels like this is mean for them to do, making jokes about the baby oil by her son. Yeah, it is. But it's nothing wrong with it if he is 100% guilty of any of it. It's hurtful and harmful to me, to the victims. But if it's going to keep this what I feel danger to society uncomfortable in his cell, I say make all the baby oil jokes you want. I care not. I care only about those people that were savagely brutalized at this man's hands. Again, guys, if you like the content that you're receiving, please hit the like button. Please subscribe to my channel. If you are part of the replay crew, again, hit the like button. If you are new to the channel, welcome. Hit all my buttons, like I said. I'm trying to get to as many, what did I say? I'm trying to get to 1,000. What did I say? Oh, 1,000 subscribers. So if you could subscribe to my channel, it's a free and easy way. Also, liking the video is a free and easy way to support my channel. So thanks, guys, for tuning in to another episode of Chanel's Reality. I'm Chanel, and this has been my reality. Y'all have a good night.